The holographic display flickered to life, casting an ethereal blue glow across the United Earth Council chamber. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood motionless, her dark eyes fixed on the massive projection of the incoming alien vessel. The ship was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered, a crystalline construct that seemed to bend light around its impossible geometry, defying every known principle of spacecraft design. 17 minutes earlier, global communication networks had gone silent. Power grids across continents momentarily fluctuated, electronic systems hiccuping as something massive penetrated Earth's orbital boundaries. Now the Zarkali diplomatic ship hung in space like a predator waiting to strike. "Translation incoming," announced the AI communication system. Its voice was deliberately neutral, a stark contrast to the tension crackling through the room. The council members, a diverse group of military commanders, political leaders, and scientific experts, held their collective breath. Ambassador Chen Wei, head of the extraterrestrial diplomatic corps, leaned forward, his weathered hands gripping the edge of the holographic console. The transmission materialized, not as words, but as a complex linguistic matrix that seemed to exist simultaneously in multiple dimensions of communication. Most translation systems would have collapsed under the complexity, but this was Dr. Elena Rodriguez's domain. A linguistic prodigy with doctorates in xenolinguistics and quantum communication theory, Elena was humanity's foremost expert on potential alien communication methods. Where others saw an incomprehensible message, she saw patterns, intricate, deliberate, almost mathematical in their precision. Her fingers danced across the holographic interface, neural link implants, allowing her to process information at speeds that would have been impossible a decade earlier. Lines of translated text began to appear, revealing the true nature of the transmission. "It's not just a message," she muttered, loud enough for the council to hear. "It's a psychological weapon." The Zarkali Ultimatum was a masterpiece of linguistic manipulation. Each word was carefully constructed to trigger specific neurological responses, designed to induce fear, submission, and total capitulation. The message wasn't just a demand for surrender. It was a sophisticated attack on human psychology. "Attention inhabitants of Solar System, designation Z749. The translation began. Your civilization has been evaluated and found insufficient for continued existence. Surrender is your only logical recourse. Resistance will result in complete biological and technological erasure." Ambassador Chen Wei's hand instinctively moved to the communication controls, but Elena's voice cut through the room like a knife. "Wait," she said, her tone absolute. Her neural implants were still processing, pulling apart the linguistic construct with surgical precision. Years of research, of preparing for a moment humanity had always suspected might come, were crystallizing into understanding. "This transmission follows a precise pattern," Elena continued, her voice gaining momentum. "It's identical to communication logs from 237 previously conquered civilizations in the Galactic database we've been compiling." A holographic display materialized, showing a complex web of linguistic patterns. Side-by-side comparisons of alien communication logs began to overlay, revealing stunning similarities. "They're not speaking to us," Elena said, a dangerous smile beginning to form. "They're reading from a script they've used countless times before." General Marcus Rodriguez, no relation to Elena, but sharing her last name and her fierce determination, stepped forward. His cybernetic eye, a testament to humanity's technological adaptability, scanned the linguistic data. "You're saying this is a standardized conquest protocol?" he asked. "More than that," Elena responded. "It's a psychological trap, designed to trigger specific neurological responses: fear, submission, hopelessness." The room went silent. Every person present understood the implication. The Zarkali weren't just attempting to conquer Earth, they were attempting to break humanity's spirit before the first shot was fired. But they had made one critical miscalculation. They didn't understand humans. "Prepare the response," Elena said, her fingers still dancing across the holographic interface. "And make it count." 43 minutes after the Zarkeli transmission, the impossible happened. Earth unified. It wasn't a gradual process. It was instantaneous, like a collective neural network suddenly finding its most efficient configuration. Political boundaries dissolved not through negotiation, but through a shared recognition of an existential threat that rendered previous conflicts meaningless. In Tokyo, the massive Mitsubishi Google robotics complex transformed in real time. Assembly lines that had been producing consumer electronics and transportation systems now reconfigured themselves. Robotic arms that once crafted precision smartphones began manufacturing advanced defensive systems. The factory's AI, developed through decades of collaborative international research, understood the assignment before human managers could even issue commands. Across the world, similar transformations occurred with mathematical precision. Captain Marcus Chen stood in the newly established Global Defense Coordination Center, a facility that had been a theoretical concept just hours ago. Now it was a living, breathing organism of human potential. Massive holographic displays showed real-time data streams from every corner of the planet. Military installations, research centers, industrial complexes, all synchronizing with a speed that would have been impossible a day earlier. "We're looking at a complete global restructuring," Dr. Aisha Okonkwo said, her voice a mixture of scientific fascination and strategic calculation. She was pulling data from multiple global networks, her neural implants processing information faster than any traditional computer could manage. The transformation wasn't just technological. It was societal. Major cities became fortresses. Financial systems were instantly recalibrated. Every human resource, intellectual, industrial, technological, was being redirected with a level of efficiency that would have seemed like science fiction mere hours ago. In Silicon Valley, tech giants that had been competitors for decades now worked as a single unified research entity. The most advanced AI systems were being networked, creating a distributed intelligence network that could process and adapt to alien communication patterns in milliseconds. "It's like the entire planet is becoming a single adaptive organism," Marcus muttered, watching the holographic displays shift and change. The first true test came unexpectedly. A Zarkeli communication probe attempted to penetrate Earth's communication networks. What would have taken months of careful infiltration was now detected and neutralized within seconds. The probe wasn't just blocked. It was studied, analyzed, and its own communication protocols were used to send a message back to the alien fleet. A message that was both a warning and a challenge. Dr. Elena Rodriguez oversaw the communication response. Her linguistic analysis team had been working nonstop, decoding the subtle psychological mechanisms embedded in the alien transmission. They weren't just defending against the communication. They were learning from it. "They've used this approach 237 times, Elena explained to the Global Council. Each time, it worked perfectly. A standardized psychological warfare technique designed to induce immediate surrender. Her neural implants projected a holographic map showing the conquest history of the Zarkeli. Hundreds of civilizations, represented by small, defeated markers. Each one had fallen to the same psychological manipulation. But humanity was different. Where other species saw the ultimatum as a death sentence, humans saw a problem to be solved. Where others would fragment and collapse, humanity was becoming more unified by the moment. In orbit, advanced satellites, a collaborative project between international space agencies, began scanning the Zarkeli ship, not with weapons, but with an intense array of sensors and communication analysis tools. Every piece of data was being collected, processed, understood. "We're not just preparing to fight," Marcus said, watching the global defense networks come online. "We're preparing to completely redefine the rules of engagement." The global transformation continued. Education systems were instantly redirected, with every research institution now focused on potential alien interaction scenarios. Medical facilities prepared for potential biological warfare. Industrial complexes became production centers for advanced defensive technologies. Humanity was no longer a collection of nations. It was a single, adaptive, incredibly dangerous organism. And the Tsar Kali had no idea what was coming. The first true test came with the Tsar Kali scout ships, sleek, predatory vessels that had broken the will of countless civilizations. They approached Earth's orbital perimeter with the confidence of apex hunters, expecting nothing more than routine subjugation. Dr. Aisha Okonkwo watched the incoming vessels through a network of quantum-entangled sensors, her neural implants processing data at speeds that blurred the line between human intelligence and artificial consciousness. Each incoming signal was more than just a transmission. It was a puzzle waiting to be solved. Incoming quantum-encrypted communication, the lab's AI announced. Its voice was clinical, devoid of the tension that crackled through the research facility. The Tsar Kali scout ships began their standard infiltration protocol, a method that had systematically dismantled 237 previous civilizations. Quantum-encrypted signals probed Earth's communication networks, searching for vulnerabilities, attempting to map out defensive capabilities. What they found was something entirely unexpected. Instead of a network to be penetrated, they encountered a living, breathing technological organism. Every probe was not just blocked. It was studied, analyzed, and turned back upon its creators with surgical precision. It's adaptive mimicry, Aisha muttered to her team. We're not just defending, we're learning. The first quantum-encrypted signal sent back to the Tsar Kali wasn't a simple defensive response. It was a message encoded with a linguistic and mathematical complexity that would take their best cryptographers centuries to fully unravel. Hidden within the transmission were subtle psychological triggers, linguistic traps designed to introduce doubt and confusion into the alien communication systems. Captain Marcus Chen watched from the Global Defense Coordination Center as the first wave of technological warfare unfolded. Holographic displays showed the incoming alien signals as intricate, almost beautiful patterns of light and data. They're using a communication protocol that's worked for millennia, Marcus observed to Dr. Elena Rodriguez, who stood nearby. Systematic. Predictable. Elena's response was a dangerous smile. Exactly. The Tsar Kali scout ships began to experience impossible system failures. Quantum-encrypted communication lines became tangled. Navigation systems started to produce conflicting data. What should have been a simple reconnaissance mission was turning into a nightmare of technological uncertainty. In a research facility in Bangalore, a team of quantum computing experts had been waiting for this moment. Led by Dr. Vikram Mehta, they had spent years preparing for a technological confrontation that most had considered impossible. Their quantum-entangled AI systems weren't just defensive. They were actively learning from each alien probe. We're not matching their technology, Vikram explained to his team. We're rewriting the fundamental rules of technological engagement. One by one, the Tsar Kali scout ships found themselves compromised. Their supposedly impenetrable quantum encryption became a weapon against them. Each attempt to probe human defenses introduced more uncertainty into their systems. It wasn't just technological warfare. It was a complete reimagining of conflict. The alien vessels began to experience cascading system failures. Navigation systems produced impossible routes. Communication networks became labyrinths of misinformation. What should have been a straightforward reconnaissance mission was turning into a strategic nightmare. They're used to civilizations that fight or surrender, Elena said, watching the holographic displays. We're doing something else entirely. By the time the first wave of scout ships retreated, they had lost more than just tactical advantage. They had lost something far more fundamental: their belief in the inevitability of their conquest. The Tsar Kali had made one critical miscalculation. They thought they were dealing with just another civilization. They were wrong. Humanity wasn't just resisting. Humanity was evolving. In the Global Defense Coordination Center, Captain Marcus Chen looked at the retreating alien vessels and allowed himself a single dangerous smile. First contact, he said quietly, is going to be nothing like they expected. Lieutenant Diego Ramirez understood the mission was insane. Deliberately getting captured was a strategy so counterintuitive that it had taken weeks of intensive psychological conditioning and quantum-encrypted planning to make it possible. The Zarkali interrogation chamber was a marvel of psychological manipulation technology. Neural disruptors, empathic resonance fields, and quantum-entangled perception modulators surrounded him. These were tools that had broken the will of 237 previous civilizations, reducing intelligent species to compliant, information-yielding husks. They didn't understand that Ramirez was not just a prisoner. He was a weapon. His neural implants, developed in a joint research facility spanning 3 continents, were unlike anything the Zarkali had encountered. Each attempt to probe his mind became a two-way street. Information flowed not just to the interrogators, but back into their most secure communication networks. Species classification. Threat level Omega. The primary interrogator, a biomechanical entity named Krelvax, stated. Its voice was a blend of mechanical precision and biological resonance. Resistance is mathematically improbable. Ramirez smiled. The first layer of his psychological defense was deliberate vulnerability. He allowed surface-level memories to float to the top, carefully constructed narratives that seemed to reveal human weakness, stories of internal conflicts, of past wars, of humanity's seemingly fractured nature. But each memory was a carefully constructed trap. Krelvax didn't realize that every neural probe was introducing complex linguistic and psychological algorithms into the Zarkali's communication network. What seemed like an interrogation was actually a comprehensive assault on the alien civilization's most fundamental communication systems. Your species has a historical pattern of self-destruction, Krelvax continued, activating advanced neural resonance fields designed to break individual and collective will. Surrender is the only logical outcome. In the Global Psychological Warfare Command Center, Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched the entire interaction through a quantum-encrypted neural link. Every moment was being analyzed, every subtle interaction mapped and studied. He's not just resisting, Elena explained to the assembled team of linguists, psychologists, and military strategists. He's actively rewriting their understanding of psychological warfare. The interrogation continued. The Zarkali believed they were extracting information. In reality, they were being systematically dismantled. Ramirez's neural implants were collecting vast amounts of data about Zarkali communication protocols. But more importantly, they were introducing subtle psychological destabilization algorithms. Each probe into his mind became a two-way transmission, information flowing both ways, but not in the way the Zarkali expected. Humans are driven by emotion, Krelvax stated, a statement that had been true for every other species they had encountered. Emotion is a weakness to be exploited. What the alien didn't understand was that human emotion wasn't a vulnerability, it was a weapon. Ramirez began to tell stories, not of weakness, but of human resilience, of civilizations rebuilt from ashes, of impossible challenges overcome. Each narrative was a carefully constructed psychological payload, designed to introduce concepts that the Zarkali communication systems simply could not process. In the research facilities around the world, teams were analyzing every microsecond of the interaction. This was more than an interrogation. It was first contact on humanity's terms. "We're not just defending," Dr. Rodriguez muttered, watching the real-time analysis. "We're redefining the entire concept of psychological interaction." The Zarkali had a fatal misconception. They believed that breaking an individual's will was the key to conquering a civilization. They didn't understand that human will was fundamentally different, not something to be broken, but something that grew stronger under pressure. As the interrogation continued, Ramirez knew exactly what he was doing. Every moment, every subtle interaction was part of a larger strategy. He wasn't just a prisoner. He was a Trojan horse. And the Zarkali had no idea what was coming. Major Sarah Kim stood in the neural interface chamber, surrounded by a holographic representation of what humanity was calling the Adaptive Combat Network. It wasn't just a weapon system. It was a living, evolving organism of technological innovation. The chamber itself was a marvel of human ingenuity. Captured Zarkali technology, pieces of quantum-encrypted communication systems, and adaptive nanomaterial fragments were being systematically dismantled, understood, and then reimagined. What would have taken other species generations became a matter of weeks for humanity's interconnected research teams. Quantum adaptive resonance at 87% integration, the chamber's AI announced. Its voice was a blend of multiple linguistic patterns designed to be both precise and psychologically reassuring. Each piece of alien technology became a puzzle, not just to be understood, but to be fundamentally transformed. The nano-adaptive armor hanging in the preparation chamber was nothing like traditional military equipment. It was alive in a way that defied conventional understanding. Microscopic systems constantly analyzed incoming data, adapting to potential threats in milliseconds. A projectile approaching at Mach 3 would find the armor changing its molecular structure before the human brain could even register the incoming threat. Dr. Vikram Mehta, leading the technology integration team, watched the process with a mixture of scientific fascination and strategic calculation. "We're not just reverse engineering," he explained to his team. "We're creating something entirely new." The captured Zarkali scout ship components were being integrated into humanity's defensive systems at an impossible pace. Quantum communication networks that had taken the aliens millennia to develop were being stripped down, understood, and rebuilt in weeks. "Traditional military doctrine is linear," Major Kim said, reviewing the adaptive combat simulations. "We're creating a non-linear approach to warfare." The Adaptive Combat Network was more than a defensive system. It was a living intelligence that learned from every interaction. Each simulation, each piece of captured technology, became part of a constantly evolving strategic framework. In orbital research facilities, teams worked around the clock. What had once been competing national space programs were now a unified global effort. Satellite networks transformed into adaptive sensor arrays. Communication systems became quantum-encrypted intelligence-gathering platforms. The first full-scale demonstration came unexpectedly. The Zarkali reconnaissance drone approached Earth's orbital perimeter. What should have been a routine scanning mission became something else entirely. The drone found itself caught in a web of adaptive technology. Its quantum-encrypted communication systems were not just blocked. They were studied, understood, and then used against it. Microscopic nanosensors embedded in Earth's orbital infrastructure began to analyze every aspect of the incoming technology. "It's not defense," Dr. Elena Rodriguez noted, watching the real-time analysis. "It's comprehensive understanding." The drone systems began to experience cascading failures, not through direct attack, but through a comprehensive deconstruction of its fundamental communication and navigation protocols. It was as if the very fabric of its technological existence was being systematically unraveled. Major Kim watched the holographic displays, each movement a testament to humanity's new approach to technological warfare. "We're not just matching their technology," she explained to her team. "We're fundamentally changing the rules of engagement." Captured Zarkali technology became something entirely new in human hands. Quantum communication systems were stripped down and rebuilt. Adaptive nanomaterials were reimagined. Each piece of alien technology became a learning opportunity, a chance to push the boundaries of what was possible. The Zarkali had encountered countless civilizations. They had a standard protocol for technological conquest. They had never encountered anything like humanity. In the neural interface chamber, Major Sarah Kim allowed herself a small smile. The adaptive battlefield was just beginning. Commander David Alvarez watched the holographic display of the Orion Nebula battlefield with a calm that belied the complexity of the moment. What appeared to be a standard defensive formation was actually a multi-layered strategic masterpiece that would redefine spacefaring warfare. The Zarkali battle group approached with the confidence of a species that had conquered 237 civilizations. Massive crystalline warships moved in formation, quantum-encrypted communication networks weaving between them like neural pathways. They expected another routine subjugation, a quick, decisive victory that would add humanity to their long list of conquered species. They were about to be catastrophically wrong. Alvarez's fleet didn't look like a traditional military formation. Where other species built massive, armored vessels, humanity had created something entirely different. Each ship was part of a living, breathing technological ecosystem. Nano-adaptive hulls that could change configuration mid-battle. Quantum-entangled communication systems that operated beyond traditional understanding of information transfer. Adaptive combat sequence initiated, the fleet's AI announced. Its voice was a blend of multiple linguistic patterns, designed to be both precise and psychologically adaptive. The first wave of Zarkali attacks revealed the true nature of humanity's technological revolution. Incoming quantum-encrypted weapon signatures were not just blocked. They were analyzed, understood, and then used against the attacking vessels. Each defensive maneuver was simultaneously an offensive strategy. Dr. Elena Rodriguez monitored the battle from the Global Coordination Center, her neural implants processing data at speeds that blurred the line between human intelligence and artificial consciousness. "They're fighting a war from 2 centuries ago," she muttered, watching the Zarkali's traditional battle tactics unfold. What the aliens didn't understand was that humanity had transformed the very concept of warfare. Each human vessel was more than a weapon platform. It was a learning system. Adaptive algorithms processed incoming threat data in microseconds, changing ship configurations, communication protocols, and defensive strategies faster than the Zarkali could comprehend. A Zarkali battleship attempted to launch a quantum-encrypted attack pattern, a strategy that had broken the will of countless civilizations. The attack found itself redirected, its own communication systems turned into a weapon against its creators. It was as if the very fabric of space had become hostile to their technological approach. Major Sarah Kim, coordinating the adaptive combat networks, watched the battle unfold with mathematical precision. "We're not just defending," she explained to her team. "We're fundamentally rewriting the rules of engagement." The Orion Nebula became a canvas of technological warfare, unlike anything in galactic history. Human vessels moved with a fluidity that defied traditional understanding of space combat. They were not ships in the traditional sense. They were living, thinking entities that could change configuration, communication protocols, and strategic approach in milliseconds. Quantum-entangled communication networks allowed for instantaneous tactical coordination that the Zarkali simply could not comprehend. Each human vessel was simultaneously a weapon, a sensor platform, and a communication node in a living, breathing technological organism. "They're used to fighting species that think linearly," Commander Alvarez said, his voice calm. "We don't." One by one, Zarkali vessels began to experience impossible system failures. Navigation networks collapsed. Communication systems became labyrinths of misinformation. Weapon signatures were redirected, turned into complex psychological warfare tools that introduced doubt and confusion into the alien battle networks. It wasn't just a battle. It was a comprehensive deconstruction of the Zarkali's entire approach to technological warfare. As the last Zarkali vessels retreated, something unprecedented happened. The human fleet didn't pursue. Instead, they collected data, analyzed the battlefield, and began the process of comprehensive understanding. Dr. Rodriguez looked at the battle data, a dangerous smile forming. "They thought they were going to conquer us," she said quietly. "Instead, we just rewrote the entire concept of space warfare." The Battle of Orion Nebula was more than a military engagement. It was a declaration. Humanity had arrived. The transmission chamber was a marvel of technological and linguistic engineering. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at its center, surrounded by a holographic representation of every communication network humanity had decoded from the Zarkali systems. What appeared to be a simple diplomatic communication was actually a multi-dimensional psychological and technological weapon. Prepare quantum linguistic encryption. She instructed the team of linguists, communication specialists, and AI experts. Each member wore neural interface implants that allowed them to process information at speeds that would have been impossible just years earlier. The Zarkali Confederation had been brought to its metaphorical knees. Their standardized conquest protocols, used successfully against 237 previous civilizations, had been completely dismantled. Their technological superiority, their psychological warfare techniques, their entire approach to interstellar dominance, all of it had been comprehensively deconstructed by humanity. Ambassador Chen Wei reviewed the final draft of the Ultimatum. It was more than a diplomatic document. It was a comprehensive restructuring of galactic power dynamics. Transmission readiness at 99.7%, the quantum communication AI announced. The ultimatum would be delivered through a communication matrix so complex that it would take the Zarkali decades to fully comprehend its full implications. Each layer contained multiple levels of meaning: linguistic, psychological, technological, and strategic. Major Sarah Kim monitored the adaptive communication networks. The transmission wasn't just a message. It was a living system that would continue to evolve and interact with the Zarkali communication infrastructure long after the initial delivery. "We're not just sending a message," Elena explained to the assembled team. "We're introducing a fundamental reconfiguration of their entire communication and social infrastructure." The terms were both simple and impossibly complex. Complete disarmament of all Zarkali military and conquest systems. Full disclosure of all conquered civilizations and restoration of their sovereignty. Comprehensive technological and cultural exchange programs. Dissolution of the current Zarkali hierarchical governance structure. Establishment of a new galactic cooperation framework. But these were just the surface-level demands. Embedded within the transmission were sophisticated linguistic and technological payloads that would systematically deconstruct the Zarkali's entire approach to interstellar governance. Commander David Alvarez watched the preparation with a sense of calculated calm. The Battle of Orion Nebula had been more than a military engagement. It had been a comprehensive demonstration of humanity's potential. They'd never encountered a species that views conquest as an opportunity for mutual transformation, Alvarez noted to Elena. The quantum encrypted transmission began to form. It wasn't just a message. It was a living, adaptive communication system. Each layer contained multiple levels of meaning. Linguistic algorithms would continue to evolve and interact with Zarkali communication networks long after the initial transmission. Dr. Vikram Mehta, who had been instrumental in developing the adaptive communication technologies, explained the transmission's complexity. "We're not just sending a message," he said. "We're introducing an entire new paradigm of interstellar communication." The final line of the transmission captured the essence of humanity's approach. "Extinction was your choice when you threatened us. Survival is now our choice to grant." It was a message that went beyond traditional diplomatic language. It was a comprehensive reimagining of interstellar relations. Transmission prepared, the quantum communication AI announced. Ambassador Chen Wei looked at the assembled team. "Send it." The message launched, not as a simple communication, but as a living, evolving system that would fundamentally challenge everything the Zarkali believed about conquest, communication, and civilization. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, and nothing would ever be the same. 53 standard galactic cycles after the transmission, the universe looked fundamentally different. The reunion station, constructed at the exact gravitational midpoint between Earth and the former Zarkali home systems, was a testament to humanity's vision of transformation. It wasn't a military installation. It wasn't a diplomatic outpost. It was a living, breathing ecosystem of interstellar cooperation. Dr. Elena Rodriguez walked through the central atrium, watching representatives from 372 previously conquered civilizations working together. The station's adaptive architecture shifted subtly, responding to the collective psychological and physiological needs of its diverse inhabitants. We didn't just defeat the Zarkali, she explained to a group of young diplomats and researchers. We offered them a different way of existing. The transformation had been comprehensive. The Zarkali's hierarchical conquest system hadn't been destroyed. It had been systematically reimagined. Their technological and cultural infrastructure was now a collaborative network, with each species contributing to a more complex, more interconnected galactic society. Major Sarah Kim, now leading the Interstellar Cooperation Initiative, monitored the adaptive communication networks. What had begun as a defensive technology had become something far more profound. A system that allowed fundamentally different species to communicate, understand, and collaborate in ways never before possible. The rescued civilizations weren't just recovering. They were thriving. Each species brought something unique. The silicon-based life forms from the Andromeda cluster contributed breakthrough quantum communication technologies. The energy-based entities from the Dark Spiral Nebula shared insights into dimensional manipulation that revolutionized transportation technologies. And humanity was at the center of it all, not as conquerors, but as catalysts. Commander David Alvarez reviewed the latest cooperative research reports. What had once been military intelligence was now a comprehensive knowledge-sharing platform. Species that had been enemies for millennia were now working on solving fundamental universal challenges. We're not just changing how civilizations interact, Alvarez noted to Ambassador Chen Wei. We're changing the fundamental approach to existence. The Zarkali themselves had undergone the most dramatic transformation. Their leadership structure had been completely dismantled, replaced by a collaborative governance model that emphasized individual and collective potential. Former conquest strategists now led research initiatives focused on species preservation and mutual growth. Dr. Vikram Mehta's research teams had developed communication technologies that could bridge seemingly insurmountable biological and psychological differences. Languages that were once incomprehensible could now be translated with nuanced understanding, preserving cultural complexity while enabling genuine communication. The reunion station was more than a diplomatic center. It was a living laboratory of possibility. Children of different species played together in adaptive learning environments. Research teams worked on challenges that transcended individual planetary concerns. The very concept of us versus them was being systematically dismantled. Humanity didn't conquer, Alina often explained. We introduced a different way of thinking. The adaptive technologies developed during the conflict had found peaceful applications. Quantum-entangled communication systems now allowed instantaneous medical support across vast galactic distances. Nano-adaptive materials were solving environmental challenges on multiple worlds. What the Zarkali had seen as a potential threat, humanity had transformed into an opportunity for collective growth. The final report from the Interstellar Cooperation Council said it best. Extinction was a choice. Cooperation is our future. As the station's adaptive architecture shifted to accommodate a new group of arriving researchers, Dr. Rodriguez allowed herself a small smile. The universe had changed, not through conquest, but through a fundamental reimagining of what was possible. Humanity had arrived, and the journey was just beginning.